finest carpet.
Tonight, we're looking into a story that you may have heard today that President Trump wants to rename Veterans Day. It's true, and that's not all. In a late post on Truth Social, the president said he plans to change the name of November 11th from Veterans Day to Victory Day for World War I. The federal holiday, which was originally created to honor those who served in the First World War, currently honors all veterans. Trump also wants to make May 8th Victory Day for World War II. The president's post made no mention of how veterans of other wars may be honored. And we should also note the renaming of holidays can't be ordered by a president. It requires an act of Congress. If you would like to submit a question to us, just go to 10news.com and click on Fact or Fiction.
My name is Peggy.
Tonight's Fact or Fiction is brought to you by America's finest carpet.
President Trump said he wants to rename Veterans Day to Victory Day for World War I, and he wants to create a new holiday. It'll be on May 8th, and it'll be called Victory Day for World War II. May 8th, 1945 represents the end of the war in Europe, also called the V-Day, but it's not a federal holiday in the U.S. The president did not say whether he wants May 8th to become a federal holiday like Veterans Day.
President Donald Trump says he wants to make changes to Veterans Day.
As ABC's Karen Travers reports, the president also has plans for May 8th.
In a late-night post on his Truth social media platform, President Trump says he wants to rename Veterans Day, the federal holiday which currently honors all veterans who served in the U.S. military. He now wants November 11th to be called Victory Day for World War I, and he wants to make May 8th Victory Day for World War II, writing, "We won both wars. Nobody was close to us in terms of strength, bravery, or military brilliance, but we never celebrate anything." Paul Reichhoff, who leads the organization Independent Veterans of America, in a statement calling the idea, quote, epically stupid and insulting, noting the different experiences of every American veteran, and saying Trump seems confused about the history and meaning of this day, adding if he really wants to help veterans, he can stop firing them at the VA and across the federal government. The president mentioning the U.S. military as he gave the commencement address at the University of Alabama Thursday evening.
We believe that the United States military is the greatest force for peace and justice the world has ever known. We have a great military. We just had people that didn't know how to lead it.
In 1938, Congress passed a law naming November 11th Armistice Day. Honoring veterans of the First World War. But after U.S. involvement in World War II and the Korean War, veterans groups asked Congress to change it to Veterans Day to honor all U.S. veterans, which now includes those who served in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The president's social media post made no mention of how veterans of other wars might be honored. It's still unclear what mechanism he'll use to rename these holidays. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
pamamanhid at tusok-tusok? Take doctor-prescribed Neurobion. It's 4 times B12 versus a generic B vitamins brand. Helps relieve these symptoms of nerve damage. Ask your pharmacist for Neurobion.
The afternoon rush in full swing. Pallets of produce whizzing by. Tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, squash, and more. Farm to Table has a pit stop, this one in the Arizona desert. Feeding America is complicated, more so right now. Everything here is from Mexico, and Donald Trump is back in the White House threatening tariffs.
It's a brave new world.
Matt Mandel helps run Sunfed, this warehouse just a few miles from the border.
100 days into the Trump presidency, your business has been impacted how?
The biggest problem that we have up till now is uncertainty. We have talk about tariffs, and then the tariffs are off. We have tariffs that came into play for 3 days. They were canceled. But the constant threat of what if makes it very hard for us to plan.
The border crossing at Nogales is almost always humming. Commerce both ways caught up in 100 days of Trump trade turmoil.
Food does not make sense at all. All you're going to do is raise those costs to consumers. People have become accustomed to having all their fruits and vegetables on a year-round basis, and that is entirely due to imports. Putting tariffs on imports is only going to limit supply, raise prices, or both.
Small businesses at the border are grumbling too. They complain of a double whammy, tariff threats and tough immigration talk. Yes, illegal crossings in Nogales and across Arizona are down. That's a big Trump campaign promise. But business owners say legal crossings are down too, dropping sales as much as 40% these past 100 days. Tucson is an hour north, reliably blue, but Trump did run a bit stronger here last year as he won Arizona and all the battlegrounds.
What's all this going to do?
Well, this is going to train our individuals how to cook.
Tamara Varga is a Trump supporter, happy with some promises kept, but nervous. A big one could be broken.
I'm worried about Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security. He did say that he wasn't going to cut them, that he was just going to find the waste, and I really hope that he sticks to that.
Why is that so important to you?
It's important because we need to take care of our people with disabilities and our elderly and those that depend on it. And they can't survive as it is right now, and we cannot cut.
Varga is a Tucson hero. Her food truck and candy store employ 50 people with special needs. She's renovating this restaurant to employ even more. A devout Christian, lifelong Republican, but some big changes. Varga says she no longer believes Trump's claim the 2020 election was rigged. She's now open to supporting Democrats for local offices, and says Trump tariffs are one reason prices are not dropping fast enough.
The items that we put in our gift baskets have gone up.
So when he says there's going to be some disruption, maybe even some pain, but we're going to get there. For now, you think, okay, I'll give you some time?
I'll give him some time, and I'm hopeful, but I think that if he doesn't come through, he's going to have a lot of people turning on him.
Melissa Cordero is an Air Force veteran who voted for Trump once, back in 2016, and regrets it every day.
He's like crazed right now. I'm constantly going, can he do that? I'm angry because the communities that I care the most about are being attacked. The LGBTQ community, the trans community, and what's really got me angry is immigration and what's happening to deported veterans.
Cordero just visited some deported veterans in Mexico. Just learned she lost a conservation grant that was part of a DEI program. Is organizing protests against Trump cuts at the Veterans Administration.
There's no one answering the phones. Mental health too. Making cuts in that area, that's like what all of us veterans need the most.
She made everything. She made the best cheeseburger.
Ray Flores named the Monica after a family legend. 100 years ago, Tia Monica inspired the first of what are now more than a dozen family restaurants.
We're sending this to Food Network, Vince. You don't make it right, you're screwed.
His biggest 100-day take, Trump turmoil, is rattling consumer confidence.
We are definitely seeing less spending at the pump. In our world, that would be the cash register, right? So we're seeing numbers dropping 7-8%. around the system right now.
People are afraid to go out to dinner.
We're built on hospitality and celebration and spending time together, and maybe there's some fear of spending that extra money out.
Flores is an independent disgusted with both national parties, all for cutting wasteful spending, all for deporting the undocumented who have committed crimes, but not impressed so far.
I'm a little bewildered about how they've gone about things, only because it seems a bit haphazard.
Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm at a 5.
What's your test for the second 100 days?
I don't want to see it get worse. I don't want to have that aggressive, somewhat mean-spirited decision-making take root on everything we do.
A great kitchen thrives on controlled chaos, but in Trump, Flores sees too much impulse and emotion, too little planning and creativity. 100 days of too much heat.
John joins us. Now, we heard one woman tell you that she's willing to give President Trump time, but if he doesn't come through, a lot of people will turn on him. How much time does she think the president has?
That was Tamara Varga, Anderson. That conversation was fascinating, all the more so because you remember how many times he went back and forth to Arizona last year, several times. Tamara was one of the president's most fervent supporters. She was the one who predicted more Latinos would vote for the president in Arizona, and they did. And now she says that the rope is getting short, if you will, on a number of issues. She doesn't want the Republicans to cut Medicare. She thinks the president has to fix the cost. She didn't put a time on it, but you could see her frustration. And remember, this is Arizona, 52% for Trump. You come back out to the map here, one of 6 battleground states he flipped. And what was the reason, Anderson? We know the cost of living. That's why voters were mad. That's why Trump won all those states and flipped them all back. Well, look at this in our polling. You talked a little bit about this earlier. Have Trump policies impacted the cost of living? Yes. 6 in 10 Americans say they have increased, gone in the wrong direction. 6 in 10 say increased. Only 12% say decreased. That's just the cost of living. What about the more global economic questions? What are Trump's policies doing? Again, Anderson, 6 in 10 Americans say they're making things worse. Only 27% say improved. So when you look at this map, Donald Trump filled in this map with all that red because he promised voters quickly he would get costs down and he would fix the economy. 100 days in, the verdict is clear, both in all of our conversations there and in these polling numbers. The president has failed that test, and those historically bad numbers tell you voters blame him.
Yeah. It was also interesting to see that in that town, legal crossings had also, and even kind of day crossings, had also cut into businesses and their profits. John King, thanks very much. New reporting in the Wall Street Journal that the president will give car makers a bit of relief tomorrow from the tariffs he imposed. According to the Journal, the decision will mean that companies paying the automotive tariffs won't also be charged for other duties, such as those on steel and on aluminum. With more on that and all the rest, we're joined by CNN Chief White House Correspondent and Source anchor Caitlin Collins. So what more are you learning about the president's evolving stance now on automotive tariffs?
Yeah, this is a space we've been watching really closely, Anderson, when it comes to what this is ultimately going to look like. And obviously, car makers have been looking at this as well to see what this means for the impact on the prices that people are paying. And so with this new reporting from the Wall Street Journal, essentially arguing that because they're already paying on other tariffs, they're not going to also have to pay for the steel and aluminum tariffs in order to essentially save them from having tariffs stacking on top of one another for some of these car makers. The real thing here, though, is this is reporting. We have to wait and make sure that this is actually an announcement that comes from the White House, because it has been very fluid behind the scenes and things have kind of been moving back and forth as we've been watching all of this shake out. As you just heard there in Dana's interview with Brooke Rollins, when it comes to actual trade deals being formed, we've been asking a lot of questions at the White House about which trade deals they believe they're close to making and why. We heard the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent say they could be coming close to one with South Korea and that they were moving a lot faster than he thought. But Anderson, a lot of that remains to be seen if it's actually a done trade deal. Is it just a memorandum of understanding? Because obviously that changes the nature of this, and actually hammering out a trade deal and getting it done takes a lot of time and is quite complicated. And so this is certainly something that obviously Americans have questions about. You look at the new polling from CNN that came out today, and the president's ratings on the economy, which are generally some of his strongest areas in addition to immigration, have actually fallen in the last few months since March, where people's confidence in his policies is not as high as it once was. And so that's a question for the White House, if these numbers are sinking in, how they view that. So far, the president has been quite defensive of his economic policies and says he plans to move ahead with the tariff policies, even suggesting just yesterday on Truth Social that Americans making under $200,000 maybe would not be paying income taxes if they raise enough revenue from their tariffs. Obviously, Anderson, a lot of that remains to be seen tonight as they are closing in on 100 days.
Want to travel for less? Agoda makes it easy. Book early, save big. Agoda's got early bird deals waiting for you. Never miss a price drop.
Joining us now is Paul Rykoff, who is the founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America. Paul, thanks so much for taking the time and being here. President Trump announced that he has this intention to rename Veterans Day in November to Victory Day for World War I and then create another federal holiday on May 8th, Victory Day for World War II. I'm wondering what you make of his plan to rename Veterans Day. Good idea, bad idea?
Ridiculous and ignorant idea. Veterans Day is widely celebrated as a day to bring together veterans who are living of all generations, not just from one conflict. And many veterans like myself have participated in conflicts that didn't quite have a victory. If you think about Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan and so many others. And there are other times to celebrate specific victories. The historical background of Veterans Day in America is, of course, Armistice Day, which was the end of World War I. But Veterans Day is about so much more than that. And it's a really unifying, empowering, motivating day for veterans of all generations across the country. And I think this drives a very weird, historically ignorant divide in the middle of all of it.
That's a strong reaction. I'm sure you've spoken to other members about this. What are veterans from your organization or from your just circle of friends saying about this plan?
I haven't talked to anybody who thinks it's a good idea. The Disabled American Veterans just put out a statement that simply said no. I think it just underscores the overwhelmingly negative reaction to this idea. Trump has slipped up with our community on the past on everything from calling veterans suckers and losers to saying that, disparaging John McCain and Gold Star families. So this is not the first time he said something dumb or insulting about our community, but I think this is going to land with a resounding thud, and I hope he will change course and recognize that Veterans Day is about all veterans of all generations, not just from World War I, and not just those that were victorious.
And so, Paul, while I have you, I want to ask you about two other things. Today, the Trump administration put out a proposed budget calling for an increase in defense budget at the expense of some non-defense programs like USAID, and all told the proposal would cut about $163 billion. So I'm wondering, are you concerned that some of those cuts could come from the Veterans Affairs programs?
Well, it looks like so far the Department of Veterans Affairs is one of the few that will see an increase relative to others. So I'm not surprised about that because most presidents are afraid to actually cut the Department of Veterans Affairs a budget, so that may be insulated. But I think the broader issue is that the deeper they cut and the more people they lay off, the more it impacts veterans. Every time a federal worker is fired, 1 in 3 of them are veterans. Many veterans want to continue to serve in the federal government, whether it's at the TSA or Homeland Security, and thousands have been laid off and fired, and many more have been disrupted. So I think we need more specifics, obviously, but it feels like another hit in the gut to a community that's continued to sacrifice over and over again.
And this pales in comparison to that, of course, but I just wanted to ask you something that has been on the president's mind for a while now. We know he has signaled that he wants to have this large military parade in Washington, D.C. on June 14th, reportedly inspired by what he saw on an official visit to France back in his first term. Besides some of the logistical issues surrounding this plan that have been brought up, do you think this is a good idea?
It feels uniquely un-American. I mean, it feels like something you'd see in South Korea. It also happens to correspond with his birthday, which feels like a conflict of interest. And it's not something we've ever really done in America. So we are more about getting the job done than to showing off for the world, and definitely don't want to do anything that appears to be celebrating an individual leader. And I think there's another real risk here. I mean, you might see more protesters than you do people who are actually marching in support of this parade. So it feels like another divisive issue involving our military that thrusts them in the middle of what is an increasingly divisive and toxic political atmosphere. Veterans in the military used to be off limits when it came to all this stuff, but every day we see a new example of how they're being pulled in more deeply.
Yeah, well, whatever happens on all of these issues, Paul Reichoff, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the service. Thank all your members for the service, no matter what they call the day.
You got it, Phil. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Unlock the GoDaddy Aero experience when you purchase a domain from GoDaddy and let AI
Okay, Brittany, thank you. Well, those who fought for our country
And new this morning, Veterans Day is a time to remember those who fought for our freedom.
Saturday, you can give a personal thank you to local veterans during the Virginia's Veterans Parade. 10 News reporter Megan Woods joins us with what makes this parade so memorable for the many veterans. And Megan, this event always draws huge crowds.
Yeah, well, this year there are several components, some even new, that make this fanfare a favorite and one to remember. Well, first, this year marks the 10th annual parade. To kick off the monumental occasion, there'll be a military flyover. Then more than 60 participants walk the downtown Roanoke route, including local marching bands and an Army regiment band. To the dozens of veterans who come, this parade means more than just a simple celebration.
I definitely know for fact that all the veterans in the local area, and especially those that make the trip from the VA hospital to come and be here that day, seeing children really just show respect and say thank you, that means the world. That means the world to them, and they truly do really appreciate it.
The parade is this Saturday morning at 11. There is a meet and greet with veterans before the parade at 9:30 in the Market Building. You can watch the parade live here on WSLS 10. Megan Woods, 10 News, working for you.
Senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to come to the floor today to talk about a success story, but potentially a success story interrupted. Back in 2022, we all were shocked to watch news playing out during an afternoon that we were here working in the Senate of another mass shooting, this one of just unthinkable size and scope in Uvalde, Texas. I was actually sitting in the presiding officer's chair when I saw word of the shooting scroll across my smartphone screen. And gratefully, in the wake of that shooting, a group of us, Republicans and Democrats, were able to come together and set aside the differences that we had and still have on the issue of gun violence in this country. Decided not to argue about an assault weapons
you.